What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back, and today I got one heck of an auction recap for you. Folks, we saw some absolute doozies come by this week, not only on eBay, but PWCC had a heck of a week with their auction block. You're not going to want to miss today's episode, so thank you so much for tuning in. We saw tons and tons of graded cards and sealed product spanning across all eras of Pokemon. It was truly a magnificent week in Pokemon auctions. Listen up, community. Today's auction recap is sponsored by Z&G Emporium's eBay auction consignment services. As you already know, you can consign your graded Pokemon cards at zandgemporium.com, where they take care of all the hassles of scanning, listing, and shipping your graded Pokemon cards for pretty much the same cost you'd be paying to do it yourself anyway. But did you know that they now will send your raw cards in to be graded by PSA? And it would cost you less than if you did it yourself. That's right. So what happens is you send your raw cards into Z&G Emporium, and then they go through the very tedious process of submitting them to PSA. Then when the cards return from grading, they go straight into the Z&G Emporium auction block on eBay, making everything super convenient for you. Visit zandgemporium.com for details on how to submit your cards and the rates they charge. Folks, you'll be hard-pressed to find a more inexpensive service than this one. Alright, with that being said, let's jump into this amazing auction recap, starting, of course, with some modern cards. Here we have a full art, or alternate art, Giratina V from Lost Origins. A PSA 10 copy has sold this week for $710, and this alternate art card has proven to be one of the strongest alt arts we've seen yet. It has not really staggered in price pretty much ever since its release. Up next, we have another amazing alternate art card. It is the Latios GX from Team Upset. Had two sales this week as PSA 10s, one for $1,926, the other one for $2,175, making this card so far one of the strongest alternate arts graded a PSA 10. Couple of cards from the XY era. Here is a full art Secret Rare Alakazam EX from Fates Collide. This card has sold as a PSA 10 for $413 US. And then we saw a full art Charizard EX from Flashfire that sold as a PSA 10 for $1,125. Now, I feel like we touch on the full art Lily from Ultra Prism quite a bit. Let's give Cynthia some love. We saw a full art Cynthia in PSA 10 sell this week for $350. And then we saw a full art Lycia from Celestial Storm sell as a Gem Mint 10 for an even $600. And then we have several amazing vintage cards that came by through eBay. Here is a CGC 10 pristine Venusaur holo from base set, sold for $844 this week. We saw a CGC 10 first edition Dark Golbat from Team Rocket set. And on the slab it says it's from the Chumlee collection, so I guess that's Chumlee from Pawn Stars. However, it only sold for $207, so I guess the Chumlee name doesn't quite carry the premium that you would expect, or not expect, I don't know. Here we have a couple of Dark Charizards. Here is a Unlimited Dark Charizard holo that sold for $1,208, while the first edition example sold for $4,150. Here we saw a Misty's Gyarados from Gym Challenge that sold for $690, while the Giovanni's Gyarados sold for $911. We saw the Rockets Zapdos first edition sell for $710, and then yet again another Rockets Mewtwo sold for $950. Here is a Blaine's Charizard first edition holo that sold for $3,850. And then again for $4,260. And then here we saw a Misty's Golduck first edition holo from Gym Challenge that sold for $2,385 US. This is definitely one of the lower pop holos from Gym Challenge. Here is a non-holo Charizard from Legendary Collection. This is the one I believe you get from the Lava theme deck that sold for $1,326. Here is a first edition Espeon from Neo Discovery, sold for $2,162. And then here is a first edition Holo Dark Porygon 2 from Neo Destiny, sold for the absolute criminal price of $320. I mean, folks, this is a holo from Neo Destiny. It is low pop. It is PSA 10, $320. That's an absolute steal in my opinion. Also from Neo Destiny, we saw a Shining Steelix first edition sell for $1,525. And then we saw a Japanese Shining Gyarados from Neo Revelation sold as a PSA 10 for $8,100. We saw several of the Japanese E-Series holos. Here's a Flareon from Split Earth, sold for $449. Here is a Japanese Espeon holo that sold for $560. A beautiful Japanese Gengar that sold for $1,524. And then a Japanese Charizard from Expedition First Edition sold for $1,030 this week. Up next, we saw the Japanese Crystal Celebi come by, and it sold for $4,350. And then check this out, folks. We're getting into some EX era cards, and it is a reverse holo Psyduck from Holon Phantoms that sold for $735. As I said in my past video, these reversed holo cards from the EX era can go for some pretty amazing prices on account of them being very low pop cards. Here is a CGC10 Perfect holographic Sceptile from EX Ruby and Sapphire that sold for $979 this week. We saw another reverse holo in Rayquaza from EX Delta Species that sold for $438 US. Here is a holographic Moltres from Supreme Victors, hitting some pretty big numbers, selling for $599. Here is a holo Gyarados from Holon Phantoms that sold for $456. And then we saw another Gyarados, this is from Call of Legends, that sold for $450 US. Here from Black and White, we saw a full art Zekrom. This is the OG full art Zekrom, not the one from Celebrations. As a PSA 10, sold for $380. And then also from Black and White, Plasma Blast, we saw this secret rare Execute that sold for $262. I always found it odd that this was a secret rare card. Kind of weird. And then up next, we saw an absolute slew of graded Charizards, all graded PSA 10. Let's go through them here. Here's an unlimited base set Charizard in PSA 10 that sold for an even $9,000. Another Dark Charizard first edition sold for $3,410. A first edition Blaine's Charizard sold for $4,023. We had an unlimited Shining Charizard from Neo Destiny, sold for $4,003. A Japanese Crystal Charizard sold for $11,100, while the English variant sold for $10,400. The Charizard from EX Crystal Guardian sold for $3,300. The Charizard Holo from EX Power Keeper sold for $1,500, while the Zard from Platinum Arceus sold for $1,325. We saw a Japanese Plasma Gale First Edition Charizard that sold for $3,700, while the English version from Plasma Storm sold for $4,750. Here is a Charizard from Boundaries Crossed, sold for $838, while the one from Black and White Legendary Treasures sold for $809. And then lastly for our Charizards on eBay is a Ultra Premium Collection Metal Charizard in PSA 10 that sold this week for $2,225. Up next are some auctions from the PWCC weekly auction block. Here is a Black Label Glaceon VMAX from Evolving Skies, sold this week for $1,530, which is down just a little bit, as last week it sold for $1,750. We saw another Black Label Moonbreon VMAX come by. This week it sold for $6,600, which isn't too bad. Last time we saw this card come by, it sold for $6,900, so only $300 less. That's nothing too crazy. A couple of Japanese promo cards came by, hitting some big numbers. Here's a 2016 Japanese World's Champions Festival card that sold as a PSA 10 for $6,000. We saw this University Magikarp prize card in PSA 7 that sold for $15,000. And then we saw another 2009 Spiky-Eared Pichu promo card that sold as a Gem Mint 10 for $15,600. And then to finish off this amazing auction lineup was PWCC's monthly premier auction block. We saw numerous sealed booster boxes. Well, most of them were opened up and verified by PWCC, except one, but we'll get to that. Up first is an unlimited base set box that sold for $11,700. We saw a Green Wing base set box that sold for $12,600. And then we saw one that was deemed shadowless by PWCC, and it sold for $26,400. And then here is a first edition Chinese base set box, sold for $38,400. Here's a first edition Jungle booster box sold for $11,400, while this fossil box sold for $9,300. Here we have an Expedition booster box sold for $27,600. And then here is the only one that I don't believe that was opened by PWCC. It was an EX Team Rocket Returns box that sold for $31,200. And then lastly, for our sealed product, here is a case of 6 XY Flash Fire booster boxes that sold for a grand total of $15,000. Here we saw a very interesting card. This is not one you see very often. It is a CGC 7 Kingler Eevee card. And if you take a look at this card, if you take a close look, you can see, of course, Kingler there, but you can also see an image of Eevee from Jungle Set, along with the move sets for both. It's kind of like a hybrid card, very weird error. Anyway, this card sold this past week for $2,400. Up next is a first edition Black Star Promo Pikachu. This sold as a Gem Mint 10 for $7,200. And what sets this card apart is that the normal Black Star Pikachu does not have a first edition stamp. This one does, making it the rarer variant. Here we have another Charizard from Plasma Storm that sold for $5,100. We saw a BGS 10 Japanese base set Charizard that sold for $7,800. Here is a Holo Charizard from Expedition set, sold for $8,700. And then here is a Japanese Gold Star Charizard from EX Dragon Frontiers that sold for an even $9,000. And then we saw this signed Gold Star Rayquaza, also Japanese card, that sold for $14,400. Up next was the German Charizard from first edition base in PSA 10 that sold for $13,200. And then here is a non-holo 4-position only Charizard from Expedition set that sold for $13,800. Here is a Squirtle, Wartortle, and a Blastoise, all PSA 10 from the Trainer Deck B that sold for $8,400. Here is a 2010 Japanese promo Daisuke Club 8600 point card. This is the Master Scroll card in PSA 9 that sold for $15,600. Here's a PSA 9 Champions League promo card that sold for $22,200. Here we have, yet again, we saw this come through a few weeks back on eBay. They are the XY promos of Sachiko EX and Suzuki-san. They're both PSA 10 cards. They're very, very, very rare and sold for $26,400. Up next is a 2012 Japanese black and white promo second place Victory Cup card that sold as a PSA 10 for $40,800. We saw a first edition PSA 10 base set Venusaur come by that sold for $12,600, while the Blastoise sold for $22,200. Here is another University Magikarp card. This one's a PSA 9 that sold for $33,600. Here is a Japanese number 2 trainer Tropical Mega Battle card in PSA 9 that sold for $38,400. This is a Pop 1 card with no PSA 10 examples thus far. Here is a BGS 9.5 Japanese World's Championship Tournament Prize Master Key card. Whew, that was a mouthful. Sold for $66,000 this week. Here we saw the first edition PSA 10 Lugia Holo from Neo Genesis that sold this week for $33,600, which I believe is up a bit, as the last sale was for like $28,000, so this one was up a little bit more. And the auction of the week, it was a tough pick, folks. There was a ton of amazing cards, but I'm going to go with the CGC 10 Pristine base set Shadowless Charizard that sold. This is a Pop 1 card. All the subgrades are 10s except for the edges. It got a 9.5, and it sold for a grand total of $63,000. That's all I got for you, folks. I told you, it was one heck of a lineup. And don't forget to check out zandgemporium.com if you want to send your cards in for consignment. That's all I got, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll catch you all in my next one.